Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Little Chapel of Faith. My name is Tina. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. We have platforms on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. If you're on any of those or all of those, please like, subscribe, and share. If you are on YouTube, please be sure to hit that bell, or you won't get any notifications. It seems like it's starting to happen again. So I feel like I have to reiterate that because it's the way YouTube is. But anyway, we are here with our readings from the Autobiography of Saint Therese. And let's begin where we left off yesterday. Before reaching the goal of our pilgrimage, we had to go through Switzerland, with its towering mountains whose snow-capped peaks were lost in the cloud, with its waterfalls and its deep valleys, rich with giant ferns and purple heather. The profusions of our nature's loveliness did so much good to my soul, raising it to God, who had poured such wonders on the land of exile, destined to endure but a day. At one moment we were high upon the mountainside, with yawning chasms at our feet, ready to engulf us. At other, passing through the charming village, with the flimsy clouds lazily wandering over its chalets and graceful spire, then by a broad lake, with calm clear waters mingling the azure with the crimson of its setting sun. I can't say what an impression the magnificence and grandeur of these scenes made upon me. It was a foretaste of heaven's wonders. Then I thought of the religious life as it really is, with its restrictions and its little hidden sacrifices every day, and I saw how easily one might become so taken up with oneself that one might forget the glorious purpose of one's vocation. I thought to myself later on, in the hour of trial, when it closed in Carmel, I shall only be able to see a little corner of the sky. I will look back on today and be encouraged. The thought of God's majesty and greatness will put my own small troubles in their place. I will love him alone and not make myself unhappy by being taken up by the trivialities now that I have caught a glimpse of what he has reserved. I turned my attention then from the works of God to those of men. Milan was the first Italian city we came to, and we were particularly interested in the white marble cathedral there, which contained enough statues to populate the town. Celine and I left the more timid ladies of the party, who gave up after climbing the first flight of the tower steps, and followed the bolder pilgrims to the topmost turret, enchanted at the sight of the whole of Milan at our feet, with its inhabitants like tiny ants. We came down from the vantage point, and then set out on interminable carriage drives, which were to go for a month, and cure me for all of desires for easy traveling. We were enthralled by the Camposanto, the white marble statues in the vast cemetery, which were chiseled with such genius that they seemed alive, and all the more enchanting because seemingly placed at random. There was such a calm Christian sorrow on the faces of these works of art that one felt like consoling them. Here, a child casts flowers upon its father's grave, and one forgets that the frail petals are of marble as its fingers seem to let them fall. There's a widow's fragile veil, or the ribbons in a maiden's hair, appear to tremble in the movement of the breeze. Seeing us speechless with admiration, and probably vexed because he could not feel as we did, an old gentleman who had been following us wherever we went said, "What enthusiasts these French are," though he was as French as we were. Poor man. He would have been better at home, as far as I could see. Far from enjoying the journey, he was always grumbling, dissatisfied with the towns, the hotels, and the people, and everything else. Father, who was happy wherever he was, tried to cheer him up. He offered him his seat in the carriage, and on other occasions, too, in his unusual way, he tried to get him to look on the bright side, but he was still miserable. How many different sorts of people we met, and how interesting the study of the world becomes when one is just about to leave it. Venice brought a complete change of scene. No more the noise of the big town, but stillness, broken only by the soft lapping of the waters and the splashing of oars. It is an attractive, yet melancholy city, and the melancholy envelopes were the palace of the Doges, for all its splendor. We passed through rooms whose vault roofs have long ceased to echo with the voice of governors pronouncing sentence of life or death. Prisoners are no longer buried alive in the gloomy dungeons, but the sight of these wretched cells made me think of the days of the martyrs, and I would gladly have been imprisoned in the darkness for my faith. I was awakened from my dreaming by the voice of the guide, and I crossed the bridge sides, so called because the prisoners, preferring death to the horrors underground, sighed with relief as they crossed it on their way to die. After Venice, Padua, we were venerated the relic of St. Anthony, then Bologna, where St. Catherine's body lies. Her face still bears the impress of the infant Jesus' kiss. On to Loreto with the heart full of joy. Our Lady certainly chose an ideal setting for the house. Everything poor and simple and primitive. The women still in their charming national costumes, not as elsewhere in latest parish fashions, and I was enchanted. But what was the holy house itself? This very roof had once sheltered the Holy Family. Our Lord's divine eyes had gazed upon these walls. The earth had known the sweat of Joseph's toil, and Mary had there borne Jesus in her womb. Then in her arms how deeply I was moved. I saw the little room where the Annunciation took place, and put my rosary in the bowl once used by Jesus as a child. What an enchanting memories these are. The greatest joy of all was to receive Jesus in his house and become his living temple in the very place where he had dwelt on earth. According to the Roman custom, the Blessed Eucharist is only reserved at one altar in each church, and the priest only gives communion to the faithful from there. In Loreto, this altar is in the basilica, which enshrines the holy house like a priceless diamond in a casket of white marble. This would not do for us. It was in a diamond, not merely in the casket, that we wished to be given the bread of angels. Father, docile as ever, followed the rest, but his daughters, who were more independent, made for the Santa Casa itself. A priest with special dispensation was saying Mass there, and we were told what we wished so much to do. This considerate priest at once asked for 2 small hosts and placed them on the paten. You can guess what a joy the communion was, a joy beyond words. So what will an eternal communion be like in the house of a King of Heaven? The joy of what we will never be clouded by the saddest of farewell. There will be no need to steal fragments from the walls, which his presence sanctified for his house. We will all be our own forever and ever. It is not his earthly house he wants to give us. He shows us that only to make poverty and the hidden life dear to us. It is his palace of glory that he is keeping for us, and shall see him not in the guise of a child or under the form of bread, as he is radiant in his infinite beauty. I will tell you about Rome now. Rome, where I looked for consolation and found the cross. We arrived during the night. I had been sleeping in the carriage and was awakened by the shouting of porters. Roma, Roma! A cry soon picked up and echoed enthusiastically by the pilgrims. It was no dream. I was in Rome. We spent our first and perhaps most enjoyable day outside the walls, where everything still retains its air of antiquity, while in the center of Rome, the hotels and the shops take one back to Paris. Our drive through the Roman Campagna made a very deep impression on me, while I cannot say how thrilled I was in the Colosseum. Here, at least, I was seeing with my own eyes the arena where so many martyrs have shed their blood for Jesus, and I wanted to stoop and kiss the soil which their glorious trials had sanctified. What a disappointment. The ground had been raised, and the real arena was buried about 26 feet down. Out in the middle there was nothing but a mass of rubble where excavations had been going on. Even this was shut off by an insurmountable barrier. No one dared go in amongst such dangerous ruins. Yet, could one possibly be in Rome and not go down there? It was impossible. And from then on, I did not take any notice of what the guide was saying. I could think only of one thing. I had to get down into that arena. The Gospel tells us that Magdalene stayed close to the tomb, constantly stooping to look inside, and at last saw 2 angels. constantly watched two angels constantly go. Stooping as she did, I saw at last not two angels, but at least what I was looking for, and with a cry of joy I said to Celine, "Follow me. There is a way through." We both ran forward at once, scrambling over the ruins, which crumbled under our feet, while Father shouted after us, astonished at our own recklessness. But we did not hear. As warriors of old felt the courage grow in the face of danger, so our joy increased with our tiredness and the danger we faced to go to our longed-for goal. Celine, who was far more far-sighted than I, had been listening to the guide, who was describing a small stone cross, which marked the place where the martyrs had fought the good fight. Soon she began looking around for it, and it was not long before we were kneeling on the sacred spot, our hearts united in the self-same prayer. My heart beat violently as I pressed my lips to the dust, once written with the blood of the early Christians, and I asked the grace to be a martyr too for Jesus. At the bottom of my heart, I felt that I was heard. After this took only a short time, and having collected some stones, we returned to the walls with where our perilous climb began again. Father had not had the heart to be cross with us when he saw how happy we were, and I saw he was even rather proud of our courage. After the Colosseum, we went to the catacombs. Celine and I managed to lie down together in what had been a tomb of St. Cecilia, to scoop up some of the earth which her sacred remains had sanctified. I had no particular devotion to her, but the pilgrimage, but after her I had visited the house where she was martyred, and heard her called the Queen of Harmony, because the songs she sang in her virginal heart to her divine spouse, it was more than her devotion that I felt. It was the love of friendship, and she became my patroness and intimate confidant. What delighted me about her was the way she abandoned herself to God, and her unbound confidence, which enabled her to purify a soul who had never desired anything but the joys of the world. I likened her to the spouse in the canticles, finding to her in the choir in armed camp, for her life was simply a magnificent song in the greatest of trials. This did not astonish me, because the Holy Gospels lay ever on her breast, while in her heart reposed the spouse of the Virgin. We visited the Church of St. Agnes, and that delighted me too. I met again one of the friends of my childhood. I tried to get a relic of hers for you, Mother, and was at first lucky. But while men were refusing, God came to my help. A little piece of red marble fell from a mosaic which dated back to the time of gentle martyr and landed at my feet. What a gracious gesture! St. Agnes herself had given me a keepsake from her own house. For 6 days we looked at the principal wonders of Rome. On the 7th day I saw the greatest of them all, Leo the 13th. I had longed for that day, yet dreaded it too, for it was to decide my vocation, and I had heard something from the Bishop of Bayeux. The Holy Father's sanction was my only hope, but I would have to ask for it first, and this involved speaking to him in front of cardinals, archbishops, and bishops. I trembled at the very thought. On Sunday morning, with 20th of November, we entered the Holy Father's private chapel in the Vatican and attended Mass at 8 o'clock. And I'm going to leave it there for today. Well, that's not the right one. And she describes those places. I am Italian. I have family in Italy. I've been to Italy, but I've still not been able to see Rome. But I hope to someday. We'll see what happens. But the way she describes it makes you want to go there even more, So, maybe one day we'll see what happens. But until then, I hope you all have a beautiful day. Be well, be safe, be kind to each other. God bless us all.